Welcome to Grief Matters, a podcast that features conversations about life and death. Hosted by Lorri Optiz, Director of Bereavement at the Joseph T. Quinlan Bereavement Center, no subject is off limits and no topic is taboo. Please submit your questions about anything end of life, dying, death, and grief to KarenAnnQuinlanHospice.org/Grief Matters.
Hi, everyone. Today, I'd like to talk about something that I've heard for as long as I can remember in regard to grief. And that is when a person dies, they get elevated to sainthood. And I hear this a lot. And I think for generations, it's been a thing that we believe that once a person dies, we forget all about the bad stuff, all the negative, and can only remember the good about that person. And in listening to grievers, I have come to a different understanding of this. It seems to me that they're not elevating their loved one to sainthood. What happens is that we just don't care about the negative stuff as much. We have begun to prioritize differently. We don't sweat the small stuff. And the messes, the arguments, the pack rats, the drinking, it all becomes less important in hindsight because we miss them. We'd love to have them back to argue with them one more time. We'd be happy to clean up their messes time and time again because we see it differently after they're gone. We see that that really was not the big stuff. The big stuff was the love and the relationship and the moments, and we miss it. So the fact that they ignored you every Sunday through football season seems like no big deal. And you'd be happy to just have them in the living room screaming at the TV one more time. Or if they spent too much money on manicure pedicures, it seems silly now that you got so angry over it, over the money spent or the time spent. You just miss them. And that's a wonderful thing that you can know that you love deeply and you were loved deeply, and that we are prioritizing better. So it's not a matter of elevating to sainthood. It's having a more realistic look at who the person was, and that the negatives, the flaws, the downside of the relationship wasn't as big a deal as it seemed like when they were still here. And the good stuff seems a lot bigger. So upon a person's death, we just minimize that stuff. They don't become saints. I do know a few people, actually, though, who seem to just completely forget any bad stuff. They just say, oh, no, nope, nope. They were perfect. They were the best. And that's okay, too, as long as you understand that nobody's really perfect. And it's okay to see their imperfections and declare them imperfect. We feel guilty a lot of times when we speak ill of the dead. And it's healthy to say they were as imperfect as I am. They had strengths and weaknesses just as the rest of us. That's not speaking ill of the dead. We don't need to make them saints or martyrs. The love continues. The missing them continues. And we move forward carrying that missing them. And it's best to have a healthy recollection of who they were and who they weren't as we journey on. So, whether your loved one was a saint or a sinner, or a little of both, I invite you to take a moment and recollect and think of them and come up with their saintly features and some of the not so saintly features and declare your love for them in spite of it all. As always, thank you for listening because grief matters.
If you would like more information on any grief or bereavement issues, including options for counseling, please feel free to call us at the Joseph T. Quinlan Bereavement Center at 973-948-2283, or you can contact us online at copewithgrief.org. Please remember to subscribe to the Grief Matters podcast on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast.